topper suggested, but nothing worked for me.
I was like कि नहीं होगा छोड़ देते हैं, नहीं हो रहा है तो क्या फ़ायदा इनको दोबारा पढ़ने से.
I would like to thank StudyIQ. I got connected to StudyIQ.
StudyIQ ने मेरा मेंस तक मैंने साथ दिया, उसके बाद भी उन्होंने मेरा साथ नहीं छोड़ा.
I have taken this mock at StudyIQ.
And I would recommend StudyIQ.
Yes, I will definitely recommend StudyIQ.
Namaskar everyone. I welcome you all on the behalf of StudyIQ IS. My name is Pritesh Mathurkar. I am the Senior Faculty of Geography, Environment and Ecology in StudyIQ IS. Simultaneously, the person which you are seeing on the screen right now, I have been to 48 countries of the world and I have traveled across 4 continents of the world per se. So I just don't teach geography, but I also live for geography. So ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to yet another very important session of the geography GS crash course part, wherein on the behalf of StudyIQ IS, we are providing you a complete thorough decoding of the main syllabus. So up till now 3 lectures have been done. Now this is your 4th lecture of your GS mains crash course, wherein I will be discussing today very important part with regards to the physiography of India. So physiography in the sense of what? So we will be discussing basically the 3 important tectonic divisions of India per se. We'll be discussing, but naturally the northern mountain complex, the northernmost part. Then number 2 will be discussing the northern plains of India, and number 3rd will be discussing the peninsular block of India. And according to it, we will try to also understand, sir, how does physiography also translate into the climate of India? Plus, we'll try to assert basically, sir, how is basically the agriculture developed in these parts? And simultaneously, we'll also try to understand the distribution of important minerals that we have in different regions of the world. So as we cover the different regions through physiography, we'll try to understand that what can be the dominant minerals, where do we find the mineral heart belt of India. So we'll try to assert, we'll try to cover all of this phenomena while we are traversing today's lecture. So please try to understand, guys, that this being a GS mains crash course, so here we are expecting that your foundation is done. So this lecture is not for the beginner's perspective, but yes, if you are watching this from a beginner's perspective, no worries, you will be still able to get close to 40 to 60% of the things. It might happen that 30 to 40% of the things might go above, might go tangential to your memory, because this being some advanced kind of discourse. So here in this GS mains crash course, we are working on outcomes rather than outlays. Outcomes in the sense that whatever information I'm going to give you, this information will be based on the past 10 to 15 years of experience of the PYQs plus my experience also, and side by side we'll also be appreciating that what can be the future year trend from this. Okay, so without any further ado, let us begin up with today's discussion, and let us try to cover this entire topic in a similar fashion yet somewhat modified, because in today's session we'll be seeing me using maps on a whole lot different level. Okay, so if I'm talking about India per se, so we all know that India is basically the 7th largest country of the world. And before I begin, guys, I would like to point to each and every one of you that all of you can download the question come answer booklet from our website studyiq.com, wherein you will be getting the questions after this lecture to write. And if you fill that up and if you submit it to us, you will be getting a very good critical feedback to your answer writing also. So India is basically the 7th largest country in the world. You can remember the sequence RCC UBAI. So Russia, Canada, China, USA, Brazil, Australia, and then India. If I talk about the total area of India, the total reported area. So Sir, the total reported area is different from actually the total surface area of India. So let us first try to understand, sir, what is the total surface area of India. So total surface area, it will include basically POK, it will include oxygen, it will include basically the unsurveyed or the disputed land of India also. Plus, it will also include the island territories. So, if I'm talking about the total surface area of India, the total surface area of India is close to 310 million hectares, or we can call it as 3.1 or 3.09 million square kilometers. Sir, is it really right that total surface area is 310? Mind you, this is not right. The total surface area of India that we have, it is close to 329 million hectares. Mind you, this is a very common confusion among the aspirants, and in mains, if you quote such figures wrong, then your answer is not that much valid. So please remember that total surface area is close to 329 million hectares or 3.29 million square kilometers. Whereas if I talk about the total reported area of India, TRA, the total reported area in the sense that what is basically the surveyed area of India. Surveyed in the sense that which you can actually find in the government records. So if you go to the Survey of India's website and if you download the official map of India, and in that if you see how much is the surveyed land, so the surveyed land of India is close to 310 million hectares or 3.1 million square kilometers. So if I'm talking about India per se, so all of us know that India is just like a khichdi, like wherein we are having wide variety of physiographic features. We have mountains, we have plateaus, we have plains, we have deserts, we do have forest, we do have coastal areas, we do have mangroves. So in India, basically we are able to find every major physiographic feature. You will be asking me, sir, why so? Because the story of India per se is just like that. So if you see what is the oldest tectonic block of India. So in a nutshell, if I am trying to discuss with you all how India actually is represented on the world map per se. So for this, the only justice is by analyzing the map of India per se. So let us try to understand, sir, how can we assert this? If we are trying to appreciate and understand what are basically the major tectonic divisions of India that we have. So India basically has three major tectonic divisions. Tectonic divisions in the sense on the basis of their formation and on the basis of their size. See, the oldest division that we have in India is not the Northern Mountain Complex, it is neither the Northern Plains. The oldest division that we have in India is to the south of the Aravallis, the Vindhyas and the Satpuras. These are your Aravallis, these are your Vindhyas and these are your Satpuras. So the area to the south of this, so this particular area, this is referred to as what? This is referred to as the Peninsular block of India. Why peninsular block? Peninsular block because it is surrounded, it's a landmass which is surrounded by water on three sides, Arabian Sea, then the Indian Ocean, preferably the Northern Indian Ocean, and then you are having the Bay of Bengal. And this peninsular block is one of the oldest cratons of the world. It is one of the oldest shield regions of the world. The origin of this peninsular block goes back to more than 3 billion years. And if you talk about the ranges, like the peninsular block has some of the oldest fold mountain ranges of the world. So some of them do argue that Aravallis are the oldest mountains that we have in India, but no, the oldest mountains that we have in India is actually the Eastern Ghats, divided among Tamil Nadu, Andhra and Odisha. So Eastern Ghats, Aravallis, Vindhyas, Satpuras, please remember that they are very old, ancient Archean fold mountain system and each of their age is more than 2.8 billion years ago. So they are very old mountains. So this is the oldest cratonic block of India. So, but naturally, if we really want to understand the physiography of India, we need to first understand from where did this originate. And if I'm talking about the peninsular block of India, India was never a part of Asia. India was attached to Antarctica. India was basically a part of Gondwana land. So India split up from Gondwana land and it started its northward drift approximately 100 to 110 million years ago, and approximately 50 to 60 million years ago India finally collided with Eurasia per se. So for roughly 50 to 60 million years, or roughly 5 to 6 crore years, India was an island, to be very precise. And then finally when India collided with Eurasia, everything altered, and then you have the formation of what? Then we have the formation of the Northern Mountain Complex. So if I'm talking about the Northern Mountain Complex, Northern Mountain Complex also comprises of 3 different ranges or 3 different mountain systems. If I'm talking about the Northern Mountain Complex is nothing but the uplifted Tethyan sea floor, or dare I say, this is nothing but uplifted Tethyan accretionary prism. So your Tethyan sea floor itself has folded and it has risen up as the fold mountain ranges that we have. And Northern Mountain Complex will include 3 important mountain systems. Number first, you will be having the Trans Himalayas, Karakoram, Ladakh, Kailash and Jaskar. Then you will be having the Himalayas, Great Himalayas, Middle Himalayas and Shivaliks. And last but not the least, you will be having Purvanchal in the northeast. So we'll try to understand and appreciate all of these ranges in detail. And then you will be having the youngest geological feature of India. So the youngest geological feature of India, it is nothing but the northern plains of India, which extend into Pakistan, which extend into Bangladesh, and we also have them in the Assam. If I'm talking about the northern plains of India, so northern plains of India, they are the youngest geological feature of India, barely 1 to 1.5 million years old. They are flat monotonous plains, mainly the depositional flood plains of 3 important rivers, Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra. Today these rivers have deposited rich alluvial soil. So as they have deposited the rich alluvial soil over here, this region today has become the fertile agricultural tract of India that we have. So in order to understand the journey of India, in order to understand the story of India, we'll first begin up with the peninsular block. We'll try to understand how did it originate, how did it form. Then we move into the understanding of the Northern Mountain Complex. And then last but not least, we'll try to understand the northern plains of India, and we'll revisit the present day peninsular block divisions. Mind you that here I will be using heavy amount of map entries. Here I will be using heavy amount of atlas in the sense that whatever atlas you are following, Oxford or Orient Black Swan, that is fine, no worries. But here I will be using the official map of the Survey of India, which is blank, so that I can highlight you all the entries and then you can mark it up in your atlas. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you understand and appreciate this point, that when I'm talking about the physiography, when I'm talking about the associated climate and associated agricultural problems and the minerals, in this you have to be very, very smart enough that you are not missing on the entries, because the questions which are coming. So last year in 2024, the question was that how does the declining groundwater potential of the northern plains of India affect the food security of India? So it's a very, very important question, and you have to interlink the problems of soil salinization and soil alkalization in the northern plains with the declining fertility of the soils, the associated loss of crops and the associated farmer distress with it. So the questions which are coming are very much analytical, so we need to understand and appreciate this. So let us begin up with the story of India per se. And if we are trying to understand the story of India per se, first and foremost, we need to understand the denudation chronology or the geological history of the peninsular block. So peninsular block, why? Because that is the oldest tectonic division of India that we have, older than 3 billion years. So if you are trying to understand and appreciate the geological history of the peninsular block, so the geological history of the peninsular block is given by T. Holland. So you have already studied the geological time scale in your geomorphology lectures. So I'm just reprinting it on the Indian time scale so that we can understand and appreciate how do we have the geological history of the peninsular block. So if you carefully see this slide, so in this peninsular block region, so we are basically going to have 4 to 5 important time frames. So what will be the 4 to 5 important time frames? So the origin of Earth is closely attributed to 4.5 to 3.8 billion years ago. Up to 3.5 billion years ago, there are no times existing in India, in the sense that we do not have the rocks or we do not have the formation of the peninsular block yet. Archean times between 3.5 to 2.5 billion years ago is when we have the formation of the first proto-continents. The first small micro-continents they form and they fuse together to basically form the Indian subcontinent. So this is where we have the formation of India. Between 2.5 to 570, 550 million years ago, we have the Purana times. Between 570, 550, we have the Dravidian times. Between 320 to 120 million years ago, we have the Gondwana times. And between 120 million years up to present, we have the Aryan times, in which you and me are right now living. So in order to understand what changes have happened on the peninsular block, we have to pick up every time frame and we have to understand what are the major geological changes that we have. So let us start and let us try to understand each of this in detail per se. If I'm talking about Archean times, this is where we have the origin of the India's peninsular block. Please understand, the India's peninsular block is one of the oldest cratons of the world. Sir, one of the oldest cratons of the world, in the sense that when we are trying to understand and appreciate what actually a craton is, so a craton is nothing but the underlying basement or the underlying core rock of any subcontinent or continent. So this craton, when it gets exposed, we basically have the formation of the shield regions, which today become the dominant mineral regions of the world per se. If I'm trying to understand, sir, how does the peninsular block of India comes into existence? So your 3 proto-continents or 3 micro-continents will collide along what? They will collide along Narmada, Godavari and Son lineament. So today, where do we have the axis of these 3 rivers, Narmada, Godavari and Son? Along their axis, 3 small or proto-continents will fuse together to form the peninsular block. Sir, can we see the remnants of this small proto-continents and what are the names? So the first proto-continent, it is referred to as the Aravalli proto-continent, the remnants of which we do find in Eastern Rajasthan. So if you go into Eastern Rajasthan to the east of Aravallis, so you do have the East Rajasthan uplands like Kota, Bundi, Ranthambore. You also have Bundelkhand. So these are nothing but the remnants of the Aravalli proto-continent. If you go in the south, the proto-continent is referred to as the Dharwad proto-continent. Or if I'm talking about the Dharwad, today the remnants of the Dharwad you find in Karnataka plateau, in Bengaluru plateau and in Mysuru plateau. You must have heard about KGF, Kolar goldfields. It's a part of this shield region itself. Then the last proto-continent which we find towards the east side of Son and Godavari, it is called as the Singhbhum shield or the Singhbhum proto-continent, the remnant of which today is basically the richest mineral region of India, the Chota Nagpur plateau, Hazaribagh plateau, Ranchi plateau. Don't worry, we'll understand each of this in detail. If I'm trying to justify all of this for you all, in the Archean times, when the three protocontinents collide, but naturally you are going to have the upliftment of the fold mountains, because whenever you will be having TC collision, but naturally your fold mountains are bound to rise up. So that is why over here we are going to find the oldest ranges that we have. We are going to find Aravallis, Eastern Ghats, Vindhyas, Satpuras, which are very, very ancient fold mountains. Now, after that, if we are trying to generalize what happened, sir, during Purana times, during Dravidian times, and during Gondwana times, let us try to understand and appreciate this. See, during Purana times, what happens is that the Indian landmass starts consolidating. The compressive forces take over. So, because of this, what happens? You start having buckling of the ground. The ground, it starts to buckle, and as it starts to buckle, so you do have formation of basins, or you do have the formation of geosyncline. So 2 or 3 very famous geosynclines, we have Bijawar geosyncline, we have Kadapa geosyncline, and we have the Chhattisgarh basin. So Chhattisgarh basin today is basically the drainage of the most important river over India, over here, which is basically river Mahanadi. So Purana times, it basically witnesses the formations of basins or geosynclines. Then if I'm talking about the Dravidian times, now see what happens, guys, that during Dravidian times, the Indian landmass largely remains above the sea level. But naturally, what will happen? Sir, the external agents of denudation, they will take over. So wind, water, glaciers, groundwater, sea water, everything, they will start eroding the India. So on the peninsular block, we do not find evidences of the Dravidian rock. On the peninsular block, we absolutely have zero evidence of Dravidian rocks. And that is why if I'm talking about the Dravidian rocks, they are not present in the stratigraphic sequence of the rocks. Stratigraphic sequence in the sense that from the origin, if you are going towards present on the peninsular block, you won't be finding zero evidence of basically Dravidian rocks. There will be absolutely no evidence of Dravidian rocks on the peninsular block. Now, what happens during Gondwana times? So Gondwana times, roughly 110 to 120 million years ago. So approximately 110 to 120 million years ago, basically what you have is that, so if I'm just opening up the time scale again so that all of you can appreciate it. So close to 120 to 110 million years ago, India finally starts to break up and it starts its northward journey. But if you see the time frame of Gondwana times, so Gondwana times, they start from 320 million years ago up to 120 million years ago. So every aspirant has this confusion. Sir, do Gondwana times begin when India actually breaks up from the Gondwana land? The answer is no. The Gondwana times, they actually start roughly 120 to 130 million years ago, much before. So in Gondwana times, what you have is that the process of rifting is beginning. So as we have discussed in the last lecture, rifting and faulting. So the process of rifting is beginning. The rifting yields, the rifting gets complete roughly 110 to 120 million years ago, and then after India's northward journey begins. So during Gondwana times, you are going to have what? So during Gondwana times, guys, we are going to have the reactivation of the Narmada, Godavari and Son lineament. So the tangential forces of expansion, they will start breaking up India. You will be having intense rifting and faulting. So as you are having intense rifting and faulting, what is going to happen? Sir, you are going to have massive subsidence of forest. So the wildlife, the flora and fauna, it will subside, and this will result into formation of what? This will result into the formation of the coal fields of India. The coal fields of India today, they are along the major river basins that we have: Narmada, Godavari, Vardha. Then we have Damodar, we have Son, and we have Mahanadi. So along these rivers, you today find the majority of coal deposits of India. Please understand, appreciate this, that the majority of coal that we have in India, it is relatively younger as compared to the world's coal. So the world's coal, it comes from the Carboniferous era, roughly 300 to 350 million years ago. So India's coal being younger, it is of inferior quality. That is why we call it as grade B bituminous coal, having very high ash content. And that is why India to import coal for generating good enough power out there. Please understand and appreciate this, that in India the coal is having very high ash content. That is why it needs to be transported immediately and it needs to be basically burned properly. And that is why if you see the thermal power plants which are dependent on the bituminous coal, they are very much polluting in India as compared to the other countries per se. Why? Because India's coal is of inferior quality. Now, if we are coming in the Aryan times, which start from roughly 120 million years ago and the present day era. So Aryan times is where you and me, we are all residing in this great country of the world per se. So in Aryan times, one very important thing happens, that approximately 65 to 60 million years ago, 65 to 60 in the sense that the end Cretaceous times. So approximately 65 to 60 million years ago, when basically India was traversing over the Mauritius Reunion hotspot. So this is your Mauritius/Reunion hotspot. All of us know that hotspot are basically the locations of ultramafic basaltic lava eruptions. So when India was traversing over the Mauritius Reunion hotspot, you had continuous eruptions. You were having basaltic lava outflows over what? Over basically the western part of India. So this basaltic lava outflows today, they have made what? So the basaltic lava outflows have resulted into the formation of the Deccan lava plateau, or we call it as Deccan traps. So let us try to understand, sir, what exactly is this Deccan traps per se. So if we are trying to understand, sir, where do we have the basaltic lava outflows in reality per se. So the basaltic lava outflows we find in the Kathiawar region of southern Gujarat, then we find it in central and western Malwa, central and western Vindhyas, then your entire Maharashtra plateau including the Satpuras is covered by it, then you are having northern Telangana and it goes up till Ratnagiri. So what exactly is this Deccan trap? Because this question was asked 2 to 3 years back. What is the resource potential of the Deccan trapland landscape? Now see, if you are talking about the Deccan trapland landscape, you are basically having layers of basaltic lava accumulating. Now initially when you are having these layers being formed, and if you are having rainfall happening or rainfall occurring during that time, so this trapland landscape can hold good reservoirs of water, because the basaltic rock, as it erodes, it will result into the formation of basically the black regur soil or the black cotton soil with very high clay content. So clay is basically, it is having pores, but the pores are such that the pores will basically hold the water. It will not let the water percolate inside. So it is impermeable. It is not having absolute zero pores. It is having pores, but it is not impermeable. The clay does not let the water escape to layers below, or it does not let the water to basically evaporate also. It traps the water. So ideally speaking, if you talk about the Deccan trapland landscape, if the water is tapped, then it can be a good source of groundwater. But once you extract the groundwater, the recharge of it almost becomes impossible. And that is where, if you talk about the Deccan lava plateau, Malwa region, it is the agricultural or the wheat belt of Madhya Pradesh. If we talk about the Deccan trapland landscape of Maharashtra, if you go in western Maharashtra, you have the cultivation of a water guzzling crop like sugar cane. If you go in the regions of Vidarbha, so you have cultivation of onion, you have cultivation of cotton. So cotton, again a water guzzling crop. We have cultivation of oranges. So basically the thing is that planning is not done properly. You do have soils which are rich in fertility, but these are not dependent resources of groundwater. And even if the rainfall occurs, we cannot basically be dependent on the rainfall. Why? Because the water is not able to percolate. It just happens that it all flows as surface runoff. So that is why because of its high clay content, because of its less permeability, this region today in India witnesses the highest rate of farmer suicides. In Maharashtra you have Vidarbha, you have Marathwada, you have in Kathiawad region, and you have in southern Madhya Pradesh, western Malwa. The farmers, they basically hang themselves, you won't believe guys, for only 2000 to 3000 rupees per se. So they get trapped in the depth, so the depth gets compounded, and then ultimately farmer does not have any other option rather to end his or her life. So very bad situation over here. So agricultural planning is very necessary. It is called as AER, agroecological regionalization. So these regions, they are not dependent sources of groundwater, and plus here they being lying on the rain shadow region of the Western Ghats, so the monsoon is not also coming with its full might in these regions. So that is why these regions should be favored for what? These regions should be favored for dryland agriculture. These regions should be favored for the growth of millets per se. Very, 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 very important. Okay, sir. So you have the formation of basically the Deccan traps, and this has basically resulted into the formation of the black cotton soil or the black regor soil. And after this, basically we are talking about the Aryan times per se. In Aryan times you have not major geological events, but you have four small events. The first event that you have, it is basically the formation of Western Ghats. Then the second event that you have, it is basically the formation of the four deep or the northern plains of India. We'll try to understand all of this. Then we are having the formation of Malda Gap, and then we also have the formation of the oil fields of India. So let us try to understand, appreciate this small four major events. Small four major, I am talking major in sense of the regional geography, not the Indian geography concerned as it is. Before I move ahead now, I will like to point out a very important current affairs, guys. So I did teach you right now that approximately 60 to 65 million years ago, you had basically the eruption of the Mauritius Union hotspot. So this also corresponds to a very apocalyptic event. So 60 to 65 million years ago is when an asteroid hits the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico. And when that asteroid hits the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico per se, what happens is that you had mass extinction of the dinosaurs. So up till now, everybody believed that the asteroid was itself responsible for the death of the dinosaurs, but now for the very first time, using artificial intelligence in geography, we have now remodeled the climate of this particular era. So as we have remodeled the climate of this particular era, it is now established that no, only the asteroid was not responsible for the mass extinction of the dinosaurs, it was also the Deccan trap eruptions. Because so much of CO2 was pumped in the atmosphere that the greenhouse gas effect, it got amplified. So the earth was largely inhabitable for roughly 10 to 20 million years ago. And after that, mammals emerge. You and me emerge. So today, humans or the Homo sapiens sapiens, we have become dominant species on earth per se. Okay. So let us move ahead and let us try to understand the small four major geological events that we have. So the first major geological event occurs on the western side of India. So we have the formation of the Western Ghats. So what happens is that the western side of the peninsular block, it rifts, it faults, and as soon as it rifts, so the western part of the peninsular block, it basically submerges, it sinks into the Arabian Sea. Now please understand, appreciate this, that when I'm talking about rifting and faulting of the western part of the peninsular block, the rifting starts way back. The rifting starts approximately 550 million years ago, but it finally rifts, the fault finally widens and it rifts roughly, you can say 30 to 50 million years ago. So then as soon as you have the rifting, and if you see the remaining part of the peninsular block from the Arabian Sea, you will see what? You will see the Western Ghats as the edge of the peninsular block. So that is why, understand, appreciate that that the Western Ghats, they are not basically fold mountains. They are not fold mountains, they are rather escarpments. Escarpment meaning side face. Why? Because they are formed as a part of what? As a form of rifting and faulting. So the Western Ghats, they are nothing but the edges of the Deccan lava plateau. Very, very important. And after this, what happens? That the remaining part of the peninsular block, it rotates east and south. So if you see my hand, what happens is that the rifting and faulting, it has started way back 550 million years ago. The western part drifts, it sinks into Arabian Sea, and now the remaining part of the peninsular block, it rotates east and south. So as soon as it rotates east and south, the slope of the peninsular block today is towards southeast, and that is why majority of the peninsular rivers like Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri, they will drain towards where? They will drain towards southeast, towards Bay of Bengal. Very, very important. And that is why, to be very precise, now this can be asked as a questions in this year's mains, because right now a new port has been inaugurated, a natural deep water port, Vindhyanchal in Kerala. If you see the ports on the western coast of India, the ports on the western coast of India are natural deep water ports. They are also referred to as submergent ports. Why? Because here you are having evidences of rifting and faulting. So these are natural deep water ports. So big cargo ships can come, they can dock very easily. You don't need to dredge the soil. Whereas the ports which we have on the eastern side of India has emergent ports. They are not submergent ports. Why? Because here you don't have any evidence of rifting and faulting. They are not natural deep water ports. So as they are not natural deep water ports, what happens is that if I am talking about the eastern side of India, here we have to continuously dredge the sea floor. So dredging is very, very important over here. So over here we are having submergent ports. Over here we are having emergent ports. Very, very important. Now after this, a second event that occurs is basically the formation of four deep. So what is this four deep actually? If you carefully observe that this is the Indian plate and this is the Eurasian plate. The Indian plate is basically under thrusting underneath the Eurasian plate. Now all of us know that if I'm talking about India per se, the Indian plate is continental plate, and also the Eurasian plate is also a continental plate. So when we are having CC collision, we cannot have subduction. The continental crust being lighter, being buoyant, it will resist subduction. So the Indian plate, instead of subducting underneath the Eurasian plate, it is under thrusting underneath the Eurasian plate. So actually you are having doubling of crust effect. So as you are having doubling of crust effect, that is why you are having the formation of the Northern Mountain Complex, and frankly that is why Tibet is referred to as the rooftop of the world, and it is still elevating. The elevation of the Northern Mountains, the Himalayas, has not stopped. They are still elevating. So where you will all be having this under thrusting. So where the Indian plate under thrust underneath the Eurasian plate, so there you will be having a formation of a depression, but naturally. So this depression is referred to as 4D. Now eventually what will happen? Now sir, eventually the Himalayan rivers, they will come, they will drain, and they will deposit their sediments in this 4D. So the eventual sedimentation by the Himalayan rivers, it creates what? It creates the northern plains of India in this 4D. That is why I told you that northern plains of India are the youngest geological major feature that we have, barely 1 to 1.5 billion years old. So this is the second event that we have. Now the third event that we have, it is basically referred to as the formation of the Malda Gap. Malda Gap in the sense of one, that if I am taking you to the eastern side of India, so basically at the border of Jharkhand and West Bengal you are having Rajmahal Hills, and on the western side of the Meghalaya plateau you are having Garo Hills. So a part of land, like you can all understand, when such a huge landmass, when such a huge subcontinent is coming and it is colliding with Eurasia, but naturally you are going to have ripple effect, but naturally you are going to have up warping and down warping. Down warping in the sense the breaking of the crust and its eventual submergence into the sea. So what happens is a part of land between the Rajmahal hills and the Garo hills, it basically rifts, it basically experiences down warping and it submerges. So because of this, you are having the formation of the Malda Gap, and in this Malda Gap today, we have the drainage of Ganga and Brahmaputra forming the Sundarban Delta. So Bangladesh, which you see today, it is actually what? It is actually the new delta of Ganga and Brahmaputra. Before this, Ganga and Brahmaputra, they were not draining this much southwards. So the old delta of Ganga we find is basically in Murshidabad. It is basically in the Fargana district. It is basically in the 26 Fargana district, Bankur and Bardhaman of West Bengal. It is referred to as Red Bengal or the Mont Delta of Ganga. But today the Delta of Ganga is further southwards, to south of Murshidabad. Then we are having basically the Sundarbans beginning. So technically speaking, if I am talking about Meghalaya, so Meghalaya was a part, or we can say it is still a part of the Peninsular block. The only thing is that it has been separated from the Peninsular block due to the formation of the Rajmahal Garo Gap. So this is basically your third geological event that happens, and after this we have the four major geological event happening. What is the fourth one? So basically, as India's plate basically collides with Eurasia, you are having evidences of what? You will be having evidences of marine transgression and recession. So the sea water will come, it will inundate the coast and it will flow back. So as it comes, as it inundates the coast and it flows back, you will be having submergence of life, both flora and fauna, and this will create what? This will create the oil reserves of India per se. So in India, where do we find the oil reserves? So we find it in southern Rajasthan and northern Gujarat. We find it in basically the Saurashtra shelf, so Barmer region. Then we are finding it in the Mumbai offshore. So Saurashtra shelf, then you are having Mumbai offshore. This is referred to as what? This is referred to as the Neelam oil fields. Then we find it in the Krishna Godavari basin. They are offshore. They are not on the land. They are in the seas per se. Then we are having Cuttack shelf, Paradweep, Odisha. Cuttack shelf does not have that much of oil reserves. It is not that much saturated, but yes, we do find oil reserves. And then we also find it in the upper Assam. So Shillong shelf, Shiv Sagar, and if you go into the Assam, you have Digboi. So Digboi oil fields, Bonkai Gayo oil fields. So these are basically your important oil reserves that we have in India. So now that we have understood the journey of India from the past up till present, now let us try to understand basically the next division of India that we have. So now I am beginning up with the discussion of basically the Northern Mountain Complex. So this is very important, guys. So try to understand and appreciate this in great detail, because this is really very, very important. Now, if you are trying to understand, appreciate, sir, what is Northern Mountain Complex? So, Northern Mountain Complex, in a nutshell, it is nothing but the uplifted Tethyan accretionary prism. Sir, uplifted Tethyan accretionary prism in the sense that when you will be having CC collision, but naturally, sir, whatever sediments will be having of the Tethys Sea, sir, all of the sediments, they will rise up as long linear chain of fold mountains, definitely, sir. So, in Northern Mountain Complex, you will be finding some very unique peculiarities. Let us try to understand, appreciate this. But before I move ahead, let us first decode that what exactly lies in the Northern Mountain Complex. So, in Northern Mountain Complex, but naturally, the first mountain range to uplift will be the Trans-Himalayas. We will be having Karakoram, Ladakh, Kailash and Sanskar. Then we will be having the Himalayas, Great Himalayas, Middle Himalayas and Shivaliks. And last but not the least, we'll be having Purvanchal. So Purvanchal, they are basically to the south of a mountain peak called as Namcha Barwa. So you have Patkai Boom, you have Naga Hills, you have Manipur Hills, and then you have Mizo Hills, Lushai. And this is where you also have Blue Mountains. So before moving ahead, I will like to open my heart in front of each and every one of you. Guys, see, this being GS mains crash course, I am expecting that all of you have marked these entries in your atlas. In mains, what is important is answer writing. In mains, what is important is providing the appropriate representation and structural details. That is why I am not marking these entries on the atlas, because here I am taking into consideration that all of you have marked this up in your atlas beforehand itself. So I am moving into the technical details so that you can build up your answers, because the questions which are coming, they are very much technical, they are very much analytical, and that is my ultimate role with all of you, that here I have to focus on applied perspective more rather than the conventional perspective. And frankly, that is why you all will be watching this lectures. Otherwise, it's all futile if I just stick to NCRTs, if I just stick to the reference book. What's the use of you all watching this lecture, right? If you're watching, if you're giving me your valuable time, I should do justice to it. I should give you some extra information. I should basically do some icing on the cake for all of you, so that all of you write something which is different from others and you can get good marks. So let's begin up with the discussion of the first kind of division of the Northern Mountain Complex. The first division, it is called as the Trans-Himalayas. If I'm talking about Trans-Himalayas per se, now please understand, appreciate this, that the Trans-Himalayas, they have uplifted when the boundary of India and Eurasia was of OC type. You still have the Tethyan sea floor subducting. It was not purely CC boundary. So because of this, now what is going to happen is that if we are talking about oceanic continental convergence boundary, but naturally when the oceanic plate will submerge, some part of it will melt and it will rise up. You can have associated volcanism as we have in the Andes. So the Nazca plate subducting underneath the South American plate, and in South America you are having series of volcanic peaks. So similarly we have in India. So if we are talking about Trans-Himalayas, so in Trans-Himalayas we do have evidences of volcanic rocks, especially in the Kargil sector and the Dras sector of India. If I'm talking about Trans-Himalayas, they will be to the north of a mountain called as Nanga Parbat, which is near Gilgit. So you are basically having three ranges. You are having Karakoram range, then you are having Ladakh and Kailash range, which extends up to Rakas Lake and Mansarovar, and then you are having Jhaskar range. So Jhaskar range is where you are having the world famous Hanle Basin, and in this Hanle Basin you are having the highest motorable road, the highest what I can say pass that we have in the world per se. Pass in the sense that if you go to this pass, it is called as Ummingla. So the height of this pass is more than the base camp of Mount Everest. So people basically pay so much to Nepal government for going to the base camp of Mount Everest, but here in India now we can take a car and go over here. Ummingla Pass, right? That is the beauty of India, and that is the vigor of Indians. BRO, Border Roads Organization, has done wonderful work in this region, and we are now constructing a higher pass than Ummingla in the Hanle Basin. So this can be asked to you, that where do we have this? If we are talking about basically Karakoram, Ladakh, Kailash and Jhaskar, so here we do have some of the important peaks. So all of us know that if I am talking about the Karakoram range, this is where you are having Godwin Austin or K2 peak, the second highest peak of the world. We have Rakaposhi, Ashirbrahm. Now understand, appreciate this, that all of these peaks, they have their origin in volcanism, in the sense that you do find volcanic rocks preserved in the Trans-Himalayas, which are absent which are absent to the south of Namcha Barwa, so which are absent to the south of Nanga Parbat, and of course in Arunachal to the south of Namcha Barwa. Why? Because then the boundary becomes purely CC. So when these mountains uplifted, the boundary was of OC type. Please understand and appreciate it. That is why we do have evidences of volcanic rocks. And if I go towards Aksai Chin, you do have wind-swept plains. Wind-swept plains in the sense that between the mountains you find flat topography. So we are having Depsang plains, Soda plains, Deosai plains. and this is where the Chinese army, People's Liberation Army PLA, will take advantage, because the cavalry movement in this plains, it becomes easy. But for us, for the Indian soldiers out there, we have to basically rely on the high terrain topography of the Great Himalayas. So China has strategic advantage in this region, whereas Indian soldiers do not have that strategic advantage. Okay, so now let us try to understand basically the Himalayas per se. So if I'm talking about the Himalayas, so Himalayas, there will be nothing but the uplifted marine sedimentary folds of the Tethys Sea. They are the youngest mountains of the world, barely 40 to 30 million years ago, and that is why frankly they are still uplifting. They are youngest, that is why they are also the highest mountains of the world. And because of the under thrusting of the Indian plate, you are actually having what? You are actually having doubling of crust effect. So because of this doubling of crust effect, you are having the topography being pushed to high elevations. So as we are having high elevations, so Tibet is referred to as what it is referred to as the rooftop of the world. Rooftop of the world in the sense that the average elevation of the Tibetan plateau, it's actually more than 4,200 meters. So frankly, that is why Tibet is referred to as the rooftop of the world per se. Please understand, appreciate this, that the boundary over here is purely CC boundary. CC boundary in the sense that here there will be no associated subduction and hence there will be no volcanism. And that is why frankly in the Himalayas you will be having very high seismicity, alpine belt, which we discussed in the last lecture, and the Dravidian rocks which were absent on the peninsular block. We did not find the Dravidian rocks in the stratigraphy sequence on the peninsular block. So these Dravidian rocks will be preserved where? Will be preserved in the Himalayas, because here the underlying rocks, they will be basically uplifted to great elevation. If I'm talking about the Himalayas, what are the dominant rock of the Himalayas? We have limestone, we have sandstone, so these are sedimentary rocks. Then we can have the associated metamorphic rocks, we can have marble, we can have phyllite, we can have schist, and we can also have gneiss. So phyllite and schist, they are very important building materials of the Himalayas. Please don't forget it. So the metamorphosed form of shale and sandstone, these two rocks, phyllite and schist, they are very important building material of the Himalayas. So now let us try to understand and appreciate the Himalayas in great detail. If I'm talking about the orientation of the Himalayas, now you will see that the orientation of Himalayas is basically convex southwards. They are not in one straight line, they are bending, they are basically convex southwards, and the Himalayas, they exhibit syntaxial bendings, or they exhibit hairpin bends beyond Nanga Parbat and Namcha Bar. The syntaxial bending or hairpin bends meaning what? That the Himalayas, if I'm talking about, so to the north of this we are having Trans-Himalayas. The Himalayas, they are rather bending, they are extending into Pakistan as Suleiman and Kirthar range, and they are extending into the northeast as Purvanchal, and they further extend into Myanmar as Arkan Yoma and Pegu Yoma. So the ladies, those who are watching this lecture, you wear hairpins, right? So in hairpins you are having this sharp bends. That is how the Himalayas are oriented. Now you must be wondering, sir, why is this happening? That why Himalayas have bent, why Himalayas are exhibiting syntaxial bending? The answer is very simple. If you see the northern edge of the India's peninsular block, or if you see the northern edge of the India's plate, it itself is bent convex southward. So the plate itself is exhibiting convex southward bend. So along this convex southward bend, what will happen? Sir, your Tethyan seafloor or your accretion prism, accretionary prism in the sense that one plate, when one plate subducts, so the sediments of the subducting plate, they get plastered alongside the edge of the other plate. So the sediments or the accretionary prism, it has itself curled along this convex boundary. So the curling of the Tethyan accretion prism along the northern edge of the Indian plate itself has resulted into what? Itself has resulted into the syntactial bending. So if you carefully observe what actually are Himalayas, so this is where your accretionary prism has basically curled and it has bent like this. So that is why Himalayas exhibit convex southward structure. They exhibit convex southward structure and extend into Pakistan as Suleiman and Kirthar, and to the south of Namcha Barwa they extend as Purvanchal, and they extend into Myanmar as Arkan Yoma and Pegu Yoma. And in Afghanistan this curl continues like this. You are having Hindu Kush and the Pamir elevation. Very, very important. Okay, sir. Now, if we are talking about the Himalayas per se, guys, this is very important. So the Himalayas, they are comprised of three very important ranges. So we are having the Great Himalayas. Great Himalayas are also referred to as the Inner Himalayas or the Himadri. The elevation of this is more than 6,000 meters. Then the next layer we have, it is called as Middle Himalayas. Middle Himalayas, they are also referred to as the Lesser Himalayas or the Himachal. The average elevation of the tallest peak is close to 4,000 meters. And then the last layer we have, it is referred to as Shivaliks. Shivaliks, they are also referred to as the outer or the Sub-Himalayas. Average elevation of the tallest peaks approximately 1,500 meters. Now, we have to understand, appreciate one very important point. See, the Indian plate is colliding against the Eurasian plate. It is under thrusting. So, you are having very intense compressive forces coming into play. So, as you are having very intense compressive forces coming into play, what is going to happen is that in the Himalayas, you are going to find series of reverse faults. Series of reverse faults in the sense of what? That sir, the footholds will be elevated and the hanging walls will go down. No sir, you have said exactly the opposite. In reverse fault, your hanging walls go up and your footwalls go down. And because the Middle Himalayas, they are sandwiched between the Great Himalayas and the Shivaliks, the Middle Himalayas, they are very much deformed. They are having very intense compressive forces, and that is why they are very much discontinuous and they are very much susceptible to earthquakes and drifting and faulting. So sir, what are the series of reverse faults that we have? So between basically the Great Himalayas and Tibet, so between the Great Himalayas and Tibet, we have the MCT, which is referred to as the main central thrust. Between the Great Himalayas and the Middle Himalayas, basically, let us not consider Tibet, let us consider between the Great and the Middle. So between the Great Himalayas and the Middle Himalayas, we have the main central thrust. We also call it as the crystalline axis. Between the Middle Himalayas and Shivaliks, we have MBF or MBT, main boundary fault or thrust. Between the Shivaliks and the northern plains of India, we have HFF, Himalayan front fault. And because of this rifting and faulting, because of this intense compression, what has happened, guys, is that the roots of the Himalayas are displaced. Roots of the Himalayas are displaced in the sense that the roots of the Shivaliks, they are underneath Middle Himalayas. The roots of the Middle Himalayas, they are underneath Great Himalayas. And the roots of the Great Himalayas, they are underneath Tibet. So because of the southern compression towards the north, the roots, the mountain ranges, they are not like this. The roots are displaced. So this is referred to as the theory of displaced roots. Very, very important, guys. What do we call this? We call this as the theory of displaced roots. The northern mountain complex, predominantly the Himalayan. Now, if we try to understand, appreciate these three ranges, now please understand, appreciate this, because a very important current affair that has happened in the last week itself, and India should be proud of that we are going to discuss. If I'm talking about the orientation of the Himalayas, in Himalayas, the first and the most important range, and dare I say the only continuous mountain range in India that we have, it is basically the Great Himalayas. So Great Himalayas will start from Nanga Parbat and they will go up to Namcha Barwa. So they will pass through Himachal. So they will begin to the north of Srinagar. So you are having Sonmarg. So that is where you are having basically the Jojila Pass. So if you are moving from Srinagar to Kargil, so you have to cross Jojila Pass just to the east of Sonmarg. Then they extend into Himachal. So Himachal, you have Kelong Pass, you are having Solang, you are having Manali, Baralachala Pass, Himachal Pradesh. Then we have Uttarakhand. In Uttarakhand, a world famous pass called as Lepkule at the border of the Pithoragarh district with Nepal, and to the north you are having Tibet. So this pass is now very much in news because this is the gateway to the Kailash Mansarovar Yatra, and India has done stupendous work in border area development. We have created 4-lane highways over here to Lepkule Pass, very important pass. Then we enter into Nepal, then Sikkim. In Sikkim you are having India's tallest peak, but naturally the tallest peak of India is K2 because POK is a part of India. But right now if we talk about, it's in Sikkim, Kanchenjunga. Then we have Bhutan, and then we are having Arunachal. So this is the extent of the Great Himalayas. But now if we are talking about Middle Himalayas, the Middle Himalayas are found only on the western end. They are not found on the eastern end. So why so? Let us try to understand, appreciate this. So the Western Himalayas, they are only found on the western side. My bad, I'm correcting myself. The Middle Himalayas, they are only found in the Western Himalayas. Middle Himalayas are not found in the east. If you are talking about the Middle Himalayas in the west, they are very much deformed. They are very much discontinuous. So we have Pir Panjal, we have Dhauladhar. Then in Uttarakhand, if you go, so you are having Mussoorie Range, Nagtibba Range, Kumaon Range, and the most beautiful range of the Himalayas that I have seen personally, it is called as the Garhwal Range. One of the most beautiful ranges that I have seen in the world, it's Garhwal Range basically. So they being discontinuous, they being deformed, so they represent very unique topography and they present unique geological challenges. So please understand, appreciate this, that Kashmir is not mountainous. Kashmir is basically a valley region. It is between a valley region between the Middle Himalayas and the Great Himalayas. Once you cross Pir Panjal, once you cross the Banihal Pass, you enter into the Kashmir Valley. So Banihal Pass is now where we are having the world famous, just to the south of it, we are having the world famous Chenab Bridge, right? The construction of which has been handled by a very famous personality, G. Madhvilata. So this presented unique construction challenges. Why? Because Pir Panjal, series of reverse faults, series of compressive rifts. So the topography is very much challenging. So that is why they had to develop new techniques of construction. They have to do concrete grouting very deep into the rocks per se. So please understand, appreciate this, that once you cross Pir Panjal, you enter into the Kashmir Valley, Anantnag, Avantipura, Srinagar, Baramulla, Uri, Tral, all of these ranges. And then to the east of Pathankot, we are having Dhauladhar range. Then we enter into Himachal and eventually into the Uttarakhand. To the south of it, we are having basically Shivaliks. Shivaliks, they are also continuous range. So they will start from basically Punjab, Himachal, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, Bihar. They will enter into basically West Bengal and then into Assam. And they will continue up to the edge of the Arunachal. So Shivaliks are also continuous. But Shivaliks, they are nothing but the uplifted alluvial fans of the Himalayan river. So the Himalayan rivers, when they are draining into the northern plains, their sediments there themselves are uplifted. So Shivaliks cannot be called as the true fold mountains. They are nothing but the uplifted alluvial fans in the Bhabbar region per se. And that is why in Shivalik ranges you do find the fossils of prehistoric swamp life. Prehistoric swamp life in the sense that if you go into Himachal Pradesh, so there you do have a national park called as Nihan National Park. So there you find fossils of horses, ghadials, crocodiles, swamp life over here. Now you must be wondering, sir, if we are talking about the Himalayan region, sir, why do we find Middle Himalayas in the west and why don't we find them in the east? So let us try to understand and appreciate this, that why exactly is this happening. So if we are trying to understand and decode this, see, the Western Himalayas, they are broader north-south, so approximately 300 to 400 kilometers in the west. So the Eastern Himalayas, they are narrower, approximately 100 kilometers north-south. Sir, the average elevation of the tallest peak of the Western Himalayas is close to 6,500 to 7,000 meters, whereas the average elevation of the tallest peak is more than 7,000 meters. Sir, the Western Himalayas, they have risen through series of steps. That is why the Western Himalayas, they are having numerous hill stations, whereas sir, the Eastern Himalayas have risen up abruptly. They are rather having very steep slopes, and that is why Indian Army is not able to function appropriately over here, because here the gradient changes abruptly. From the northern plains, the Eastern Himalayas, they rise up abruptly. Here, the three distinct ranges are clearly visible: the Great Himalayas, the Middle Himalayas, the Shivaliks. So over here, the three ranges are not clearly visible. Here you do find Great Himalayas, and then directly if you go into Arunachal, you are finding Dafla, Miri, Abhor and Mishmi. So Dafla, Miri, Abhor and Mishmi, they are not Middle Himalayas, they are rather the Shivaliks of Arunachal. Sir, why is this so happening? What can be the reason behind this? See, the appropriate reason behind this is that if we are understanding the exact reason is basically the door slam shut mechanism. Sir, what do you mean by door slam shut mechanism? So now everybody focus on my hand. When I'm talking about door slam shut mechanism means that when the Indian plate collided with the Eurasian plate, so the Indian plate first collided on the western part. So the western part of India, or the western edge of the Indian peninsular block, gets hinged, and then basically the western part gets unhinged. So the western part hinges, then the western edge basically unhinges itself. So the Himalayas first rise up on the west, they basically slump down, and then the eastern part gets hinged abruptly. So as soon as this eastern part gets hinged abruptly, what happens is that you are having abrupt rise of the Eastern Himalayas, and then again the western part gets hinged. So this is referred to as door slam shut mechanism, and that is why if we are talking about Western and the Eastern Himalayas, the Eastern Himalayas, they have risen up abruptly, whereas the Western Himalayas, they have experienced an episode of slump down. That is why you are having series of steps, and that is why over here guys, you are going to have majority of the hill stations. Very important. But if you are trying to understand, sir, are the northern mountains the true water divide of India? Like, do the northern mountain complex, they basically act as watershed or act as water divide of the rivers? The answer is no. Why? Because in spite of high elevations, the Himalayan rivers, they are able to cut across the mountain ranges. The rocks being sedimentary, they are not as tough as the granite ones. So the Himalayan rivers, they have not actually wait. They did not actually wait for the upliftment of the Himalayas. So as the Himalayas were uplifting, the Himalayan rivers were able to drain across. They were able to cut across the Himalayas, and that is why such rivers, they are referred to as what? Such rivers, they are referred to as the antecedent streams. They are referred to as what? They are referred to as the antecedent streams that we have. Very important. And hence, the Himalayas, they are not the water divide of India. Water divide of India means they are not acting as a drainage basin. They are basically acting as what? They are basically not acting as water divide. They are not dividing the basins of rivers. They are just acting as the source of the rivers. So the Himalayan rivers, they are referred to as the perennial rivers, because they will be getting the water from the melting glaciers during summers, and during the monsoon season they will be getting the water from the monsoonal rainfall. Compare and contrast with the peninsular rivers. Peninsular rivers, they are seasonal rivers or monsoonal rivers. Why? Because peninsular rivers, they will be largely dependent on monsoon per se. So Aravallis, Vindhyas, Satpuras and Western Ghats, they are the true water divide of India. Because Aravallis will separate the basin of Indus from Ganga and Brahmaputra. Vindhyas and Satpuras will separate the northern and the southern rivers. The Western Ghats will separate the eastern and the western rivers of the peninsular block per se. So very important out here. Chalo. So now that we have done the northern mountain complex, let us now understand basically the northern plains of India, because this is very important. And in northern plains of India, you will be better able to understand that how is everything stratified per se. So let us begin up with the discussion of the northern plains. So guys, if you are trying to understand the northern plains of India, see, northern plains of India, they are nothing but what? They are nothing but the depositional floodplains of the Himalaya. The depositional floodplains of the Himalayan rivers, meaning that if the rivers flood, then only you will be having sedimentation. So in reality, flooding is very essential component. Unless and until we have flooding, how can we have the fertile alluvium recharge? You all tell me. There will be no fertile alluvium recharge happening. See, today what we have done, the mistake is that we have erected majority of the cities of India on the floodplains of the rivers. So New Delhi, the capital of India, it is on the floodplains of the Yamuna river. So if it floods, Delhi is going to submerge. So it's our lack of understanding, it's our lack of town planning, it's our lack of smart planning that today we find floods and droughts manifesting as disasters. In reality, floods and droughts, they are not disasters if they are managed appropriately. Very important, guys. Please understand, appreciate this. So if I'm talking about the northern plains of India, so northern plains of India, the youngest geological feature, barely 1 to 1.5 million years old, so hardly 10 lakh to 15 lakh years they have older. Their average elevation is barely 100 to 150 meters. Their east-west extent is close to 3000 kilometers. They will extend across Pakistan, in India, Punjab, Haryana, New Delhi, UP, Bihar, West Bengal, in Bangladesh, and then in Assam, you are going to have the Brahmaputra Assam plains. So as we saw in the Himalayan region, the same thing will happen over here also. So the northern plains, they will be broader north-south in the west, and towards east, they will be very tapering. Why so? Because here door slam shut mechanism, and towards the east they will be very small, they will be very constricted. And formation, of course, the sedimentation of the Himalayan rivers and eventual accumulation of the sediments into the 4D, resulting into the formation of northern plains of India. So now if we are trying to understand the northern plains of India, we need to understand the regional divisions of this, because this is very important. Now if we are trying to understand, appreciate what are the regional divisions of the northern plains of India. So regional divisions, they are basically threefold. So as I told you that Aravallis will act as a water divide. So to the west of Aravallis, we have the Trans-Ganga plains. They are referred to as the plains and the doabs of Indus. Between Aravallis and Malda Gap, you have the Ganga-Yamuna plains, which in India are the true northern plains of India, supporting the rich agriculture, providing us with the good water reserves, and also aesthetically, culturally, they are very important. And then to the east of Malda Gap, we are actually having the Assam Brahmaputra plain. So let us try to understand and decode each of this in detail. So if I'm talking about basically the Trans-Ganga plains, so Trans-Ganga plains, they are basically the plains and doabs of Indus. If I'm talking about Pakistan, so in Pakistan you are having Indus and its 5 tributaries. Now after Operation Sindoor, this is all going to get altered very radically. So doabs basically meaning the land between two rivers. It's a Persian word, land between two rivers per se. So the main Indus doab between Indus and Jhelum, it is referred to as Sindh Sagar doab. Between Jhelum and Chenab, we have the Chech doab. Between Chenab and Ravi, we have the Rachna doab. between Ravi and Bias, we have the Bari Doab, and between Bias and Satluj, we actually have the Bist Doab. So if I'm talking about the plains that we have in India, they are basically the Punjab plains and Rajasthan plains. So let me just mark this up on your atlas so that all of you get comfortable with this and you can all appreciate with it. So if you are trying to understand and decode, sir, which divisions do we have in India per se? Now understand and appreciate this. If I'm talking about the northern plains that we have in India, so northern plains, they are basically to the west of Aravalli. So Aravallis, they will start from a town called as Palanpur in Gujarat and they will extend till New Delhi Ridge. To the west of this, we are having basically the Trans-Ganga plains or the plains and doabs of Indus. So here we are basically having the doabs of Indus. In Punjab and Rajasthan, we basically having the Bari doab and the Bist doab primarily, which will extend till Rajasthan. So in Punjab, where we are having the Bari and the Bist doab, this is where we have actually brought in the green revolution. We have actually cultivated the crops per se. So if we are trying to understand the Bari and Bist doab in Punjab plains, so Punjab plains locally they are referred to as Sirhind plains or Manjha plains. If we talk about the Punjab plains that we have in India, they are relatively warm, they are relatively humid, and because of good irrigation, the Indira Gandhi canal, we are able to cultivate wheat, rice and sugarcane, everything. Whereas in Pakistan, you can't cultivate sugarcane, you can't cultivate rice per se, because they are relatively cooler and they are relatively drier. Whereas the Punjab plains of India, they are relatively wet, they are relatively warm and humid. Now, if we are trying to understand, sir, what is the problem of this region, that northern plains or the Punjab plains predominantly. So here, during Green Revolution, what happened is that you are having subsidized power, you are having basically subsidized agricultural tools, tractors given, high yielding varieties of seeds given. So here, what we are actually having is not use, here it is not overuse, here we are actually having the abuse of the groundwater reserve. Because see, Punjab, Haryana, Western UP and Northern Rajasthan, they are not good rainfall region. Rather, the rainfall in this region is less than 100 centimeters a year. So, but naturally, they have to rely on what? They have to rely on the groundwater reserves. Groundwater reserves of what? Of basically Yamuna and Ganga and its tributaries per se. But naturally, and also in Punjab, you will be having Bias and Satluj. But naturally, you have to rely on the groundwater reserves of these rivers. So once you start extracting that, because of abuse of groundwater, because of capillary action, the salts from the ground, they are going to come up. So today, if you go to Punjab, Haryana, Western UP and Northern Rajasthan, including Bihar, that this entire region is witnessing very less productivity and production of crops. Why so, sir? Because, sir, the salts have covered the subsurfacial layer of the soils. We locally refer to it as chopane, usar. So today the soils in this region, they have become saline or sodic soils. In near future, in 20 to 30 years, Punjab and Haryana is over for agriculture. This is very, very important. And that is why India needs to advocate for what, guys? And that is why India frankly needs to advocate for evergreen revolution. This is very, very important. Okay. Now, if we are talking about the Rajasthan plains that we have, so the Rajasthan plains, they are very much composite in origin. So let us try to understand the Rajasthan plains first through map and then we'll discuss over here. So if we are talking about Rajasthan plains, so the northern Rajasthan in the Sri Ganganagar district, the extension of the Bist and the Bari Doab. So this is where you are having good agriculture. Now if I am talking about the central, northern and western Rajasthan, this region. So this region is referred to as the Bhagar region. So this region is drained by rivers like Luni and Ghaggar. So Luni and Ghaggar, they are basically the remnants of the ancient Saraswati river. So in this region, due to Indira Gandhi Canal, in this region, basically due to good irrigation practices, we do have agriculture developed. So Bhagar region is basically a semi-arid grassland. It is actually a semi-arid grassland. Locally, this region is known as Rohida or Rohi plains of Punjab. Then if you move towards west, this side, so this is where you start getting the loessic soil deposits, the loessic yellow soil near Pokhran, the nuclear testing site of India. So when India was actually colliding with Eurasia, when the elevations were not that high, so trade winds, they basically brought in the yellow soils from Mongolia, from the Taklamakan desert of China. So Mongolia and China's border, you are having Gobi Desert. In China, you are having Taklamakan Desert, Zungarin Basin. So from there, you basically have these yellow soils coming. So this is basically the yellow region soil or the loessic soils of Pokhran. And then once you move towards west, Jaisalmer, Bikaner, so this is where you are having the Marusthali or Marusthal, locally called as the Thar Desert. So Jaisalmer, Bikaner with its sand dunes. And then as we go into the south, so this is where you have the Saurashtra Shelf. So this is where you have the flat salt pans, the runs of Kutch, of northern Gujarat and southern Rajasthan. These are basically your divisions of the Rajasthan plains. They are basically composite in origin. Please understand and appreciate this, guys. If I'm talking about Rajasthan plains, the Haryana plains, they are rather composite in origin. So northern Rajasthan, you are having the Bis Doab extension agriculture. Central Rajasthan, you have the Bhagar region, the Rohi plains. Then we are having Luni Ghaggar rivers, the remnants of the ancient Saraswati river. The western and the central Rajasthan is where you are having the loessic deposit soils from Mongolia, Gobi Desert and China's Taklamakan Desert. Then further to the west, we are having the Thar Desert, and to the south, we are basically having what? The flat salt pans or the plains, locally called as the Rann. Now, if you are trying to understand, appreciate, sir, are the Marusthali and plus the yellow soil regions of Bikaner, Jaisalmer, and the sand dunes, which are locally referred to as Dhiran. So this region in totality, it is referred to as Marwad region. So Marwadis, you come from this region. If any one of you, those who are watching this lecture, are Marwadi, so this is going to come from this region. And this region will be having numerous salt water lakes. So salt water lakes meaning that they are having very high evaporation. So very high evaporation, so the salt concentration increases. So that is why locally they are referred to as the desert lakes or the playa lakes. We have Sambhar Lake, Pichola, Rajsagar, Udaipur. We have Pushkar Lake, we have Didwana Lake. So these are the local desert lakes or the playa lakes with high salt concentration. So this is basically your Trans-Ganga plain. Now the most important plain that we have in India. This is referred to as what? This is actually referred to as the Ganga Yamuna plain. Now Ganga Yamuna plain is stratified into two parts. We have the north-south division, which is based on soil texture, and we have the east-west division, which is based on cultural tradition and ethnic perspective. So in history, you must have studied the upper Ganga plains, Haryana, New Delhi, Western UP, the dominance of Mughal. Then in the middle Ganga, Eastern UP and Bihar, Anga, Mithila, Magad, right? All of these empires that we have. And then lower Ganga, you have the red plains of Bengal, and then you have the Sundarbans. So from geographical perspective, we will not focus on the east-west division. We will focus on the north-south division. Why? Because this is based on soil texture. So on the basis of soil texture, we have Bhabbar, we have Terai, we have Bangar, and we have Khaddad. So we have in totality these four divisions. So let us try to understand and appreciate what are these four divisions in totality. So this diagram is very important, guys. If in mains this question is asked, you all need to draw this diagram. This is very important. So we have the Great Himalayas, we have the Middle Himalayas, then we have the Shivaliks. Starting from Shivaliks up to the present floodplain of the rivers, we have in total 4 divisions. Now see, if we are talking about the past flow of the rivers, so the past flow of rivers, it was close to the foothills of Himalayas. They were flowing close to Shivaliks. But due to intense compression from the northern side, the Himalayas, they are still uplifting. So the rivers, they have shifted little bit southward. So the present day river course is little bit towards south. It is not towards north per se. So the first division wherein the rivers, they actually enter into the foothills of Himalayas, this is referred to as the Babbar zone. So Babbar zone is where you are having Haridwar and Rishikesh. So these are nothing but your merged alluvial fans or cones. So they will be having rounded stones which are referred to as boulders and conglomerates. If you go on the river bed and if you see the dry river bed of Ganga in Haridwar and Rishikesh, you will find big rounded boulders, conglomerates, the rocks which are basically flown in by the rivers per se. So in Babbar zone, what happens is that the rivers actually disappear. The river waters percolates into the rocks, it goes underground. So they do have good potential for groundwater reserves. But the soils, they are not as rich. You do not have the deposition of the rivers yet beginning because the rivers are still deepening the valley. They are in their young stage. So that is why here the agriculture is not well developed. Agriculture is developed where? Sir, agriculture is developed in the Terai belt where actually the green revolution was introduced. Why, sir? Because in Terai belts, the rivers, they tend to re-emerge. The rivers re-emerge in the sense of what? The water which has percolated in the Babbar zone, the water comes up. So that is why basically when I'm talking about the Terai region, so Terai region is where you will be having swamps, and traditionally Terai region was having sal forest, but once the partition happened, once you had basically the people coming from Pakistan towards India, once you had the forced migration happening, so the sal forests were cleared, and today this region has become the agricultural heartland of India, starting from Punjab, Haryana, UP, Bihar up till Assam. Again, the same problems of soil salinization and soil alkalization. Then we are having the third region called as the Bangar region. See, Bangar region is not as wide as I have shown in this diagram. The Bangar region is relatively small. If I'm talking about Bangar region, it is basically the older floodplain of the Himalayan rivers. Older floodplain of the Himalayan rivers in the sense that the rivers which were flowing towards south little bit, they were flowing over here first. So that is why in Bangar you are finding basically calcium carbonate concentration. So the exoskeleton of the older life forms that we have. So they are locally called as what? They are locally called as Kankar kind. And now if you see which is the present day river valley, so it is in zone 4, we called it as Khaddad. So Bangad and Khaddad, they are basically separated from a vertical scarface or a wall. It is called as Khol and Daya. And then you are having the present day river valley. Now what has happened is that majority of the cities that we have in India, they are basically constructed where? They are basically constructed in the Khaddad zone, which every year due to flooding of rivers will receive alluvium recharge. So you are constructing the cities in the Khaddad zone and then you are saying, sir, you are having flooding. Oh, floods have come. Don't you think guys this is foolish? On one end you say that no, we require good agriculture, we require good economy, but on the other end you are doing this grave mistake, you are doing this blunder. And see, neither I am a geologist, neither I am a geographer, neither majority of you are. Some of you might be those who are watching this lecture, you might have done honors, you might have done MA or BA, but majority of you are not. So we not being geologists, we not being mineralogists, we not being geographers, we are able to understand this fact. Government of India should understand this, right? So I pray to each and every one of you, once you write this year's mains and then you basically sit in the interview panel and once you qualify, please improve this. This is very important. This is all a game of planning itself, right? So please understand that Khaddad is the zone where you are having the present day river valley. Every year you will be having alluvium recharge, and this is very important, very important. So now let us begin up with the last part that we have. So the last part is basically the Assam Brahmaputra plain. So now what is the exact point of conflict in the Assam Brahmaputra plains? So if I'm talking about the Assam Brahmaputra plains, so the Assam Brahmaputra plains, they are sandwiched between what? So they are sandwiched between the greater Himalayas and the Shivaliks of Arunachal, Tafla, Miri, Abhor and Mishmi, and to the south you are having Meghalaya plateau, Garo, Khasi and Jayanti. So because of this, what has happened is that the course of Brahmaputra, so Brahmaputra begins from a town called as Sadhya. In Sadhya, you are having a river called as Lohit coming, and from the north you are having Sangpo, which in India is referred to as Diang or Dibang. So then your Brahmaputra begins from Sadhya. So what happens is that the course of Brahmaputra is sandwiched between the Himalayas and the Shivaliks in the north and the Meghalaya plateau in the south. Because of this, it becomes extremely narrow. Now all of you know that Brahmaputra is the biggest river of India. 1/3 of fresh water of India is carried by a single river called as Brahmaputra. And as its course gets constricted, it is prone to river course shifting, guys. It is prone to what? It is prone to river course shifting. Again, a game of management. Nothing to say. And then Brahmaputra, it basically enters into Bangladesh. The southernmost town that we have, it is called as Dhubri. Now, if I are comparing and contrasting the tectonic divisions, Bhabbar, Terai, Bangar and Khaddad, sir, which divisions will dominate over here? Sir, predominantly here Terai and Khaddad will only dominate. Why? Because Brahmaputra and its tributaries, because of abrupt gradient change, the Brahmaputra will directly drain into the Assam Brahmaputra plains. It will directly drain into the northern plains. There will be no Bhabbar, and of course there will be no Bangar because the course is restricted. So of all the 4 divisions in the western side, sir, all these 4 divisions will dominate, but in the east only Terai and Khaddad will dominate. This is very important. Okay. So now that we have completed the northern plains, so now let us begin up with the understanding, the last part of this lecture. Let us try to understand, appreciate the present day divisions of the peninsular block, because this is very important. So present day divisions of the peninsular block in the sense that presently the peninsular block is divided into 8 meso divisions. We are having how many divisions? So we are having in totality 8 meso divisions. So 8 meso divisions in the sense of what? That you are having 8 major divisions and they are further subdivided into small divisions. So let us try to understand each of this division in detail first. So the first division that we have, it is called as the North Central Highlands. Sir, North Central Highlands will include which divisions? Can we understand, appreciate this? Chalo. So let us first mark it up on the atlas and then we'll try to understand. So the North Central Highlands, it includes first division, we have it as Aravallis. The second division, it is called as the East Rajasthan uplands. So this region of Rajasthan, this is referred to as the East Rajasthan uplands. Marwad region, Mewad. So this is where you are having Mewad region, the Rajput region. Then you are having Kota Plateau, Bundi Plateau. Then we have the Lashot Hills, Ranthambore region. Then the third division over here. So this division, this is referred to as Madhya Bharat Pathar. And then the fourth division over here, this is referred to as Bundelkhand. So these are basically the 4 divisions that we have of the North Central Highlands. So Aravallis, they will start from a town called as Palanpur in Gujarat. They will go till New Delhi Ridge, the Raisina Hills, so very famous. The tallest peak of Aravallis is on the southern Rajasthan and the border of Rajasthan and Gujarat, Guru Shikhar Peak, Mount Abu, very famous for Dilwara temple. Then East Rajasthan uplands, you have Mewar, Bundi, Kota, Ranthambore. In Madhya Pradesh, northern part, you are having the Madhya Bharat Pathar, Shivpuri Plateau, Morena Plateau. And in Bundelkhand, in southern UP and northern Madhya Pradesh, you basically have it as a cultural region. So Bundelkhand, you do find some metallic minerals over here. But Bundelkhand is not a good region for minerals per se. You do find some metallic ores, but not every. So you do find little bit of aluminium, you do find little bit of iron and little bit of bauxite also, but rest you don't find. Okay. So Bundelkhandi, actually it's a dialect region per se. Now the next region that we have, it is referred to as the South Central Highlands. So South Central Highlands includes Vindhyas and its scraplands. It includes the Malwa Plateau, Western Madhya Pradesh. Then you are having Tropic of Cancer, and below it you are having the Narmada Rift. So let us try to understand and appreciate on the map first, and then we'll try to understand it basically through the theory part. So if we are trying to understand the South Central Highlands, so South Central Highlands is having 3 zones. So this is where you are actually having the Tropic of Cancer passing. So to the north of it, you are basically having which region? So to the north of it, sir, we are having Vindhyas and its scraplands. So Vindhyas and its scraplands, in the sense that Vindhyas is having its erosional extensions, its erosional escarpments. Escarpments meaning that side face again, but Vindhyas, you all know, more than 3 billion year old mountain ranges. So, but naturally they are going to be very much denuded and discontinuous. The Vindhyas, Bandher Plateau, Bunher Plateau. Then you are having Sonpar Hills extending up to Bihar. So this is the first region, and mind you, the Western Vindhyas and the Malwa, they are covered with lava deposits. So this region of Madhya Pradesh, this is referred to as Malwa. So the tributaries of Yamuna, like you are having Chambal, and Chambal's tributary Shipra. Shipra is where you are having the first timekeeping town of the entire world, Ujjain, right? So Malwa is basically the wheat belt of Madhya Pradesh, but this is not done. Why? Because Malwa does not receive good rainfall. It's entirely dependent on groundwater, not that much fertile. And then to the south of it, you basically are having the Narmada Valley. So this is basically your South Central Highland. If you are trying to understand, appreciate this, so we are having the Vindhyas and its scraplands. Western and Central Vindhyas will be covered by lava deposits. Banher region, Kaimur Hills, Sonpar Hills, these are not having lava deposits. The Western and Central Vindhyas have, its erosional escarpments do not have. Then we have Malwa Plateau covered by lava deposits. This is where you are having the world famous Chambal ravines, right? So the dry, thorny, or the deciduous thorny or bush vegetation of India. If you have ever watched the movie called as Son Chidiya or Pan Singh Tomar, this region has been shown. Then to the south of Tropic of Cancer, you have the Narmada Valley sandwiched between Vindhyas and Satpuras. This is the second division. Now the third division, this is referred to as North Deccan. So North Deccan does have Satpuras. Again, they are very much discontinuous. Then we have Maikal Range, and then we have the entire Maharashtra Plateau. So let us try to understand it on the map first, and then we will try to understand it through basically the theory part. So if we are talking about North Deccan, so Deccan, as the name suggests, Deccan traps covered by lava deposits. So you are having basically 3 divisions of it. So you are having Satpuras, so you have Mahadev Hills, you have Gavidgad Hills, you have Asigad Hills, and then you are having basically Rajpipla Hills. So these are basically your Satpura ranges. So between Gavidgad and Mahadev Hills, you are having the origin of Tapi River, the boundary between Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. So it originates near Baitul Plateau. So Baitul Plateau is over here at the border of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh in Madhya Pradesh. In Mahadev Hills, you are having basically Dhupgad Peak. So Dhupgad Peak, the tallest peak of the Satpuras, the famous Nagdwar Yatra happens over here. Then your entire Maharashtra Plateau till basically south of Ratnagiri. So this entirely is in your basically North Deccan, and then at the border of Madhya Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, this is where you are having Maikal Range, and you have basically the Amarkantak Plateau. You have basically what? You have Maikal Range or you have the Amarkantak Plateau. So very, 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 very important. So we basically have the Satpura Range, very much discontinuous, Mahadev, Gavilgad, Asigad, Rajpipla. Between Mahadev and Gavilgad, you are having Betul Plateau, the origin of Tapi river per se. And after that, we are having Maikal Range, the Amarkantak Plateau, and then the entire Maharashtra Plateau till Ratnagiri. So this is your North Deccan. The last division that you have, it is referred to as South Deccan. So South Deccan does have basically three ranges. So you have Telangana Plateau, you have Rayalaseema Plateau, and then you have Karnataka Bengaluru / Mysore Plateau. So if I'm just showcasing you it on Atlas, sir, how do we have the extension of this? Let us just mark it up so that all of you can understand and appreciate this. So this is your Karnataka Plateau. This is your Telangana Plateau. I'm denoting Telangana as TS, Telangana state. And then over here you are having the Bengaluru Plateau and the Mysuru Plateau. So this complete region, this is referred to as what? This complete region, this is referred to as the South Deccan. So all of us know that Deccan, and here you don't have lava deposits, so not agriculturally sustainable. And Bengaluru, Mysuru, they are like Bengaluru, the average elevation of Bengaluru is above 900 meters. So, but naturally it is going to have problems of what? Groundwater reserves plus flooding during monsoon. It's as simple as that. So these are your 4 divisions. Now let us try to understand and appreciate the most important tectonic division of India. So for this, I won't be using the map. I will be showcasing it through basically my handwritten perspective, because this is very, very important. So understand and appreciate this very, very carefully. So the 5th division, it is referred to as the Western Ghats and Hills, guys. Western Ghats and Hills in the sense that you are having basically 3 important ranges or 3 important divisions of it. Number first, you have Northern Sahyadris. Second one, you are having Central Sahyadris. And then the last one, you are having basically, it is referred to as the Southern Hill Complex. Now, everybody please understand, appreciate this, that when I'm talking about Southern Hill Complex, guys, so technically speaking, geologically speaking, Southern Hill Complex is not a part of Western Ghats. The orogeny of it, the vegetation of it is completely different from the Western Ghats. So if in mains, if it is categorically asked that are Southern Hill Complex a part of Western Ghats, you will say no. But if it is asked as a generic question, you can include it. If I'm talking about Western Ghats, the Western Ghats, they begin from Gujarat, they extend till Kerala, Kanyakumaram. But typically speaking, the Western Ghats begin near Nashik. So in Nashik, you are having Sathmala Range and Ajanta Range. So Ajanta Range is where you are having world famous Ellora caves, the rock cut temple, which has been cut from top to bottom, and Chhatrapati Sambhaji Nagar near that. So if we are talking about Northern Sahyadris, so Northern Sahyadris, they basically start from Sathmala and Ajanta near Nashik, and they extend till basically North Goa. The tallest peak of Northern Sahyadris, it is basically Kalsubai peak. Then your Central Sahyadris, they begin from Goa and they extend till Wayanad, Northern Karnataka, and they are not having any lava deposit. So they are basically the true blocks / edges. Here we do have lava deposits. So they are rift mountains also, plus they are having lava deposits. Here they are true blocks, they are true edges. They don't have any lava deposit. So if you are trying to understand, appreciate this, let us try to understand through only one diagram. So this is where you are having Sathmala and Ajanta range. So near Nashik, you are having Kalsubai peak, the tallest peak of the Western Ghats. I'm again saying this. See, The tallest peak of Western Ghats is Kalsubai if and only when the southern hill complex is not considered to be a part of Western Ghats. If southern hill complex is considered to be a part of Western Ghats, then the tallest peak becomes Anaimudi peak. If southern hill complex is not included, it's Kalsubai. If it is included, then it is Anaimudi peak. So you are basically having Balaghat range and Harishchandra range. So Balaghat range, to the north of which lies Godavari. So Harishchandra range, it basically divides the basin of Krishna and Godavari. Please understand, appreciate this. So Harishchandra range acts as a water divide between the basin of Krishna and Godavari. So Krishna will begin to the basically west of Mahadev Hills near Mahabaleshwar peak. See, Balaghat, Harishchandra, Mahadev, they are all the erosional escarpments of the Sahyadris. They are basically the extension of it, but they are rather discontinuous. So Mahadev Hills, to the west of it, you are having basically Mahabaleshwar peak, from where you are having Krishna and Bhima river originating. And then if you go to the central Sahyadris, to the east of central Sahyadris, again you have erosional escarpments. You have Badami Hills, Katappa Hills, Chitradurga, Shimoga and Baba Budan Hills. So these are your erosional escarpments of the central Sahyadris. These are northern Sahyadris, these are central Sahyadris. So northern Sahyadris, they are beginning near Nashik, they are going till North Goa. From North Goa till basically Wayanad, you are having the central Sahyadris. And below this, you are having the southern hill complex to the south of Kaveri river, to the south of Mysuru and the Bengaluru/Karnataka plate. So let us try to understand, appreciate this. If I'm talking about southern hill complex, they are basically the south of Kaveri. So you are having Nilgiri, Doda Betta, Uti, Udak Mandalam, the tallest peak of Nilgiris. Then we are having basically Palghat Hills. So if you want to go from Ernakulam, Kochi to Chennai, the only option for you is to basically cross the Palghat gap or Palakkad gap between Annamalai Hills and Palghat Hills. So between Palghat Hills and Annamalai Hills, you are having the Palakkad or Palghat gap. In Annamalai, you find the tallest peak of Western Ghats if they are included, Anaimudi. If not, then Kalsubai. Then you have Palani Hills, Sirumalai Hills and Varushnath Hills. And to the south, you are having Cardamom Hills in Kerala. So this is where you are having the world famous Agastyamalai Biosphere Reserve. I will recommend every one of you to go to this place once in your life. Very beautiful. This is basically your southern hill complex. Nilgiris, the tallest peak of Nilgiris being Doda Betta, Uti, Udak Mandalam. Then you are having Palghat Hills. If you want to go from Ernakulam and Kochi to Chennai, the only option is to cross Palakkad and Palghat gap. Then you have Annamalai Hills. Then you are having Palani, Sirumalai and Varushnath Hills. Between Annamalai and Cardamom in Kerala, you also have Shenkotta or Shenkotti gap. This is also another pass to go from west coast of India to east coast, but it is not as prominent as the Palghat gap. That is why it is not discussed so much. So please remember. Now, the sixth division that we have, it is referred to as the Eastern Ghats and Hills. So, Eastern Ghats and Hills, they are again basically ancient Archean fold mountains. They are being very old, they are very much discontinuous, eroded and denuded. So, we are having them distributed in three regions in Tamil Nadu, Andhra and Odisha. In Tamil Nadu, you are having Panchamalai Hills, Shevaroy and Javadi, which are the dominant bauxite reserves of India. Because of what? Because of leaching. So for 8 months, the land will bake under the sun. For 4 months, you will be having rainfall. Here predominantly the northeast monsoon season between December and March, because this is where you are having Coromandel coast. So this won't be receiving rainfall in the typical southwest monsoon season. This will receive rainfall in the northeast monsoon season. So very, very important out here. Then in Andhra, you are having basically 5 to 6 ranges. So you are having the Telangana and Rayalaseema region extending as South Deccan. To the south of it, you are having Sechachalam Hills. And once you go to the east side of Andhra Pradesh, you are finding 4 ranges. So Sechachalim is a part of Eastern Ghats, and then 4 ranges: Palkonda, Velikonda, Narramala and Yellamala. So Palkonda, Velikonda, Narramala, Yellamala, and to the northeast of Andhra Pradesh, between the border of Andhra and Odisha, this is where you find very famous hill station called as Araku Valley. So Araku Valley is where you are having the tallest peak of Eastern Ghats called as Jindagada Peak. Is also referred to as Arayokonda. Please remember, this is the tallest peak of Eastern Ghats. And then in Odisha, you are having Utkal Hills. We also refer to it as the northern Sirkars. The tallest peak of Utkal Hills, it is referred to as Mahendra Giri Peak. Call it as what? We call it as Mahendra Giri Peak. Please understand, appreciate this. This is referred to as what? This is referred to as the Mahendra Giri Peak. Very, 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 very important. And then the most important tectonic division of the peninsular block, which is actually the mineral hard belt of India, it is referred to as the Eastern Highlands and Basins. So Eastern Highlands and Basins, they are to the south and east of River Son. So I'm starting from the south and I'm going towards the north per se. So let me just show them first on your atlas, because this is important, and then we'll move ahead. So if I'm talking about the Eastern Highlands and Basins per se, so your Eastern Highlands and Basins, they start from where? So they start from southern Chhattisgarh. So this is your southern Chhattisgarh. This is where you are having Bastar Hills or Bastar Plateau, Dandakvan, Dandakarnya, the forest which punishes. Then above you are having Chhattisgarh Basin, the basin of Mahanadi. Then in Jharkhand you are having the Chota Nagpur Plateau, the mineral rich region, the mineral hard belt of India per se. So let us try to understand and appreciate this in great detail. So from the south I am beginning. You are having Bastar Plateau, Dandak 1. This is where you are having the tributary of Godavari, Indravati flowing, and this is where you are having the richest iron ore field of India, Bailadila mines. Very, very important. After that you are having Chhattisgarh Basin, which is also referred to as the Mahanadi Basin. And then the third division you have, it is called as Chota Nagpur Plateau, which has evidences of rifting along river Damodar, and you do have volcanic evidences over here. So to the north of it rise Hazaribagh Plateau, to the south of which rise Ranchi Plateau. And you are having erosional escarpments of this. So to the northwest we are having Mailam Hills, to the southwest we are having Ramgarh Hills, to southeast we are having Garjat Hills between Jharkhand and Odisha, and to the Jharkhand and West Bengal's border we are having Rajmahal Hills, after which you are having the Rajmahal Garo Gap per se. And then the last division you have Baghelkhand region, south and east of River Son. It is basically extension of Vindhyas, and this is where you find rich sandstone deposits of India. So Baghelkhand, Chota Nagpur region, range of metallic ores and non-metallic minerals. Then you are having Chhattisgarh Basin and Bastar Plateau. Very, very important. Bastar region, Chhattisgarh, this is basically the left-wing extremism area, left-wing extremism LWE region of India, because the militants, they will take advantage of the topography using guerrilla warfare, because very much discontinuous, very much denuded topography, huge granitic and dioritic blocks. So the militants will take the advantage of this topography. And now the last division that we have, so we are having basically the Meghalaya Plateau. Please remember that Meghalaya Plateau is a part of peninsular block. It is separated from the peninsular block because of the Rajmahal Garo Gap / Malda Gap. So Meghalaya Plateau, you have 3 ranges, Garo, Khasi and Jaintia, and you also have erosional escarpments of this. Erosional escarpments meaning extensions. So you have Barel Range, Mikhir Range and Regma Hills. Barel, Mikhil and Regma. So Garo, Khasi, Jaintia, they are basically, again, they are not actually mountains. Between them the rivers are flowing like Dhansiri and Kopili. So Dhansiri and Kopili, they have actually carved off these ranges. So please understand, appreciate this, that the Garo, Khasi and Jaintia, they have actually been carved out by Dhansiri and Kopili river. Very, very important. They are erosional escarpments formed due to differential erosion by Dhansiri and Kopili. Very, very important. And then to the east of that, we are having Purvanchal. So Patkai Boom. Then you are having Naga Hills, Manipur Hills, Mizo Hills or the Lushai Mountain. So very, very important. And the tallest peak of Purvanchal is what? The tallest peak of Purvanchal is Saramati Peak. So to the east of Manipur, you are having, between Manipur and Myanmar, you are having Saramati Peak, the tallest peak of Purvanchal. The tallest peak of Purvanchal is not Namdafa. If you Google it, this will be showcased. Please don't Google it. Okay. Namdafa is a part of the Northern Mountain Complex. It's not a part of Purvanchal. So it's a part of the Great Himalayas, not the part of Purvanchal. Please understand, appreciate. Okay. So guys, here I clear off our today's understanding of the physiography of India. I hope that you all understood and appreciated my understanding. And we also did discuss basically some of the important rivers and tributaries of that. And eventually you will be getting all of this on our app. So all the notes will be updated. Please don't forget to follow me on Telegram. My official handle on Telegram is CSC with PM. So until next time, until your next mains, like I hope that majority of you give mains this year. Tata, bye bye, adios amigos. Please keep on working hard. Please keep on working smart. And please keep a smile on your face, because that is the ultimate crux of life. Okay. Thank you everybody. I will see you all in the next great adventure. Please do not forget to follow me on Telegram. My official handle is CSC with PM. Thank you everybody. Bye bye. Take care.
Every single book which have toppers suggested, but nothing worked for me.
आई वॉज लाइक कि नहीं होगा छोड़ देते हैं, नहीं हो रहा है तो क्या फ़ायदा इनको दोबारा पढ़ने से.
I would like to thank StudyIQ. I got connected to StudyIQ.
StudyIQ ने मेरा मेंस तक मैंने साथ दिया, उसके बाद भी उन्होंने मेरा साथ नहीं छोड़ा.
And I have taken this mock at StudyIQ.
And I would recommend StudyIQ.
Yes, I will recommend, definitely recommend StudyIQ.